Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Now let's move on with the level 8 of our P&L. So now we want to do the code for earnings before depreciation, amortization, and tax. So we are done with interest. So we need to net off the interest element from net margin and other income to get the earnings before depreciation, amortization, and tax. So I will uncomment out this earnings before depreciation and tax code. Then we'll comment out the depreciation and amortization element, or the depreciation and amortization code. So up here we have earnings before depreciation, amortization, and tax. And our first line of code, which is line 1812, we are saying earnings before interest, tax, dip and amortization is equal to level 7 dot log, level 7 category is equal to earnings before depreciation, interest, and tax. We are only picking the last row of that level 7, which was our earnings before depreciation, interest, and tax. Then again, within that level 7, we are picking the interest element. So let me just try to recap on what I've said about earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, amortization. So what we are picking here, we are picking a subset of data for the earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. It's not the last row, but we are picking the earnings before we do our interest element. And then within that data frame for level 7 again, we are selecting a subset of data for interest, of which we are only picking where the category has the interest element. Then we are putting that subset of data to data frame. So let me just try to print these two data sets. So print in bracket EBITDA period number is 1 and the year is 2017. So this is what we have as earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. So these are the values. So from these values, we need to net off the interest element, of which we have down here, or rather we have in this code. We're also trying to get the interest element the way we've gotten the earnings before tax, dip, and amortization. And then after that, we'll be saying that total interest is equal to interest in square bracket period actual period budget times -1, and then YTD actual times -1. So in short, we are trying to turn the interest element to negative values, as that's why we are matching the numerical values with -1. And then down here we are saying again interest in bracket period actual, interest in bracket period budget, interest in bracket YTD actual, and then interest in bracket YTD budget, and interest element period last year, interest in bracket YTD last year, and then lastly interest in bracket total last year is equal to total interest. So this value here, so now we are saying that the interest is equal to the values that we had changed to negative. So here we were turning the values to negative. After turning them to negative, now we are saying that now the interest element is equal to those negative values. So that's why we are saying down the interest in bracket the numerical columns is equal to total interest. So down here we are trying again to calculate we are calculating the earnings before depreciation and amortization. So what we are saying here that EBITDA or earnings before depreciation, amortization and tax is equal to PD.concat EBITDA and interest. So we are concatenating the EBITDA and interest. So remember what we have as EBITDA is what we have up here, this data frame. So we are concatenating this data frame with this last data frame for interest, and then we are also resetting the index, and then we are saying that EBITDA.log or earnings before depreciation, amortization and tax.log in square bracket earnings before depreciation, amortization and tax is equal to earnings before depreciation, amortization and tax in double square brackets period actual, period budget, YTD actual, YTD budget, period last year, YTD last year, and total last year. So we are trying to sum the numerical columns. Then down here in this line of code we are saying that rather we are trying to replace the null values with the earnings before BIP and amortization as a string, and again we are trying to drop the index, the reindexing, and then we are picking only the last row of that data frame. So we are saying that EBITDA is equal to EBITDA.tail in bracket 1, so 1 to mean the last row of that data frame, and then down here we are saying that level 8 is equal to pg.concat level 7 with EBITDA. The x is equal to 0 because we are concatenating on the rows. Then we are resetting index. Again we are also dropping the index that is unnecessary. So down here let's try to print level 8 to see what we have. So let me comment out the printing of level 7. So now we are printing level 8. So the period number is 1. The year is 2017. We want to see what we have as level 8, and when you check level 8, this is what we have. This is what we have. So we have sales volume, we have sales, and then after sales we have cost of sales, then gross margin, then we have direct expenses. We also have net margin, we have indirect income. Then after indirect income, we have direct expenses. So down here we have quite a number of rows for indirect expenses, but I'd explain will in the final product we'll drop the category, and then we'll group the ledger column. We'll group the we'll group the ledger column so that we'll have these indirect expenses as single line items, as opposed to these many similar items. So this should not worry you. Then down here we have total indirect expense. Then we have earnings before interest, tax, depreciation and amortization. Then we have the interest element. Then when we net off the interest element, we get the earnings before depreciation and tax. So in our next code, we need to do the depreciation element. So I will request that we stop at there. So when we come back, we'll be doing level 9, and level 9 will be talking about the depreciation and amortization element. So thanks a lot for watching, and please do subscribe if you haven't. And for those of you who have, please thanks a lot for your support, and let's meet again in the next video.